Good afternoon, Leigh. How are we?
I'm good. I've had one of those crazy hazy days where I've gotten the tube, National Rail, and the Overground all in one day. I've had a real London day.
You've been a real gal about town today, which is quite nice. Very kind of like Carrie of you, I'd say.
Thank you. Except I was in a flat shoe.
How she ever ran around New York in heels, I'll never understand. What's it called? Is it called like plantar fasciitis?
Yes.
Honestly, she must have been a real sufferer, and we never hear about it in Sex and the City.
Hear about it. No.
That is the lost storyline of that show. But we are here to talk about a very different show, dear listeners. Welcome back to Queer Gals Watch the West Wing with myself, Fi, and the lovely Leigh.
Hey.
And this week we are watching episode 4 of season 4, The Red Mass.
I had, frankly, no idea where this was going on the basis of this title.
It's very Margaret Atwood, to be honest. Yeah, I didn't really understand. I assumed religious.
Well, I, as the Catholic in the room, didn't actually assume religious. I thought it was going to be something to do with like red as in Republican.
Oh.
Like Republicans en masse, you know?
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
But
to be honest, the previously on gave us no more information because it's kind of just recapping the continued cover-up of Sharif's assassination. And then roguely flashbacks to Amy and Josh's relationship. So I was like, oh, maybe we're going to get some more post-breakup info.
Or indeed just the info of the breakup.
Honestly,
at all.
Just a blow by blow. We're not asking for much. I just need to know who phoned who, what happened when and where, and how long Josh cried for.
Oh.
Because I don't know. I just feel like it was a very like sad and meaningful breakup for both of them. And we've been robbed of that moment. I think we needed to see Josh go through that.
I think we all have that fantasy of like the one that got away working out like 10 years later. And I think that would be to have actually re-met that person and it to have happened and then to break up. I think if you re-encounter someone later in life, it's very easy to convince yourself that it's all kind of kismet and they are the one, you know?
I think that's happened, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, before we dissect any further, shall we just jump into the episode recap, Leigh?
Let's go to Senator Stackhouse Biden.
Spooky, right? It's spooky, kind of the crossover vibes between Senator Stackhouse and Joe Biden.
There's a shared vibe. Honestly,
and it's not just sort of grandpa's all. We're not just tarring him with that brush, but I do think there's just an energy. And I hate to say, but like I will not leave energy. But we found out at the end of last week's episode that Amy isn't working for Senator Stackhouse, and now we get to see her in action. So we open on a delightful scene with Senator Stackhouse's team, which is Amy and a woman called Susan Leigh. I was obsessed with Susan.
Susan hates Amy.
Susan fucking hates Amy. There's some really, really pithy dialogue to open up this episode. Some very quotable moments.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of, I encountered a woman maybe 20 years my senior at one point in my career. We worked together very closely and I thought she hated me because she would do things like mutter under her breath about me. And then in a kind of heart-to-heart, like 18 months into us knowing each other, she turned to me and said, "You remind me of myself."
Oh my God.
As a young woman. And I was like, whoa.
That's what it's all about.
That's dark. But I feel that's what's the dynamic between Susan and Amy.
I believe in this case, on this particular point, you are the servant of two masters. Leigh almost
Susan has no chill.
And as sexy as that possibility sounds, it's just not true, Susan. Like, they're giving it as good as each other have got. And it's one, let's note that it's 2002 and we're seeing two powerful women leading a senator's team. However, obviously, they have to hate each other, which is the disappointing bit.
And Amy is making a BDSM joke in the workplace.
Which
I kind of appreciate.
Iconic. Yeah. Because women are sexual beings, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She's a feminist.
The whole thing is obviously giving me Biden PTSD. I will say, though, Amy looks incredible. The white-collared shirt and the black blazer, she looks gorge.
Yes, and while Susan is being slightly shady about Josh, Amy gives Donna her flowers.
Which we love.
She's like, as quick as you think Josh might have picked it up, his assistant will have worked it out even sooner than that, which is amazing. And then she just absolutely reads Josh for filth.
I have to say, this is such a good plot line because it's essentially a redo of the Josh and Mandy plot line.
Yeah.
But better played out and with more stakes because we actually know the history of the relationship going in.
100%. And I think what Aaron learnt from the Mandy Josh storyline was it's really hard to build that kind of relationship when the audience don't know the characters very well.
Yeah.
Because I think when you're putting exes together and in the early days of a TV show, audiences are just going to pick a side. And unfortunately, kind of slightly the way that Mandy was written, it meant that everyone was like, well, we love Josh and Mandy's kind of annoying. And then there was nowhere to go. Like, you just kind of had to sack off the character. The beautiful thing here was that Amy arrived as her own character and we were allowed to build our own kind of opinion of her before they got together. But there was that, like you say, the history sprinkled in, which created intrigue for the audience because we were like, oh my God, I would love for them to get together.
Yes. I will say the one exception to immediately putting exes together in a show is Orange is the New Black. That is the one time that has worked.
But that's because the plot of the show.
Yeah.
You're so right. One of the key points of tension in the entire show is just imagine not being able to leave the room.
Imagine being in prison with Piper.
Truly. We all fear it. But Amy reads Josh for filth in that she's like, oh, well, the Mets lost last night, so he'll need to focus. And we immediately cut to Josh talking about baseball in his own office, which I did think was very enjoyable. And then Leigh, I'm assuming you wish to discuss this exchange?
Yes. There comes a day in every man's life, and it's a hard day, but there comes a day when he realizes he's never going to play professional baseball.
And you're just having that day today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we've discussed this at length in this podcast already. Leigh and I have a fascination with the male psyche and the idea that there's a few jobs that just all men think, I could have gone pro.
Yeah.
Could have been an astronaut. We had that moment with Jed. Could have been a baseball pro. Could have been a pro footballer. Could have been an Olympic athlete. Could have been a musician that was famous. There's a lot of that kind of around in the male environment. And I've never heard it voiced in quite this way. And it was so enjoyable because the line was performed with the sincerity and also kind of self-deprecation that it needed.
Yeah, I really felt that we were doing right by society by giving voice to this as an issue and raising it, in fact, as a joke.
Because it's funny.
It is funny because, every man believes on a certain level that he either could have been an astronaut, John Mayer, or Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And the fact is, only John Mayer can be John Mayer. Only Tom Brady could be Tom Brady. There's a lot of people trying. It's not happening.
And should we be idolizing those men is another thing that I just pop in there. But onwards. As we smash through the credits and into a lovely CJ press briefing, slightly more information on what the Red Mass is, but actually maybe not. Red Mass, you're right, is at 10 o'clock at the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, which is also what they called my dorm room in college.
I appreciate this as a joke, but I also don't know what it means.
So I think this is like a self-deprecating dig because it's like Shrine of the Immaculate Conception being very like Virgin Mary, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's her being like, I didn't shag at college. Like, I was such a nerd.
Got it.
I think that's where she's going with that.
In my head, I was thinking that she like got pregnant at college, had a sneaky abortion, and was like,
oops.
LOL, definitely didn't have sex. Must have been immaculate conception. But maybe that was just my Irish brain. Great.
So we're still fighting for more debates. The current count is still 2, but the team are hoping that they're going to be able to kind of like overturn that ruling and get some more debates. However, we are having kind of moment of clarity amongst the gang around the election campaign. Cue this interaction, which is, I believe, between Sam and CJ. I know how Richie's going to win this election.
So do I. What's your way?
Overcoming perversely low expectations. What's your way?
Making the president run Stackhouse's campaign.
Fascinating. Really, really clever. Terrifying, for sure. But they're on the money here, I think. Which is,
agreed.
Again, Aaron Sorkin is some sort of soothsayer, because you're not wrong. Sometimes when people's expectations of a candidate are really low and then they kind of just get above them, people are like, well, maybe they are kind of good at this.
It's so funny. You don't realize until you watch a show like The West Wing how like tribal politics is in terms of being like trying to get in the heads of the opposing camp.
Yeah. And I think it was really nice to see, because, you know, so we had information at the end of last week's episode that Stackhouse was going to run as an independent. And obviously everyone was like, oh, that's not fair because he was going to endorse the president. But actually the reality of it isn't about that taking votes. It's about the fact that it's going to pull the president's focus into what Stackhouse is standing for rather than what Richie is standing for.
Yeah.
So time for a team meeting. Toby really hates Governor Richie.
I love it.
Like, I would say it's a red hot hate.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. He's not holding back, and everyone else, I think, is being much more professional.
Yeah. But then at the same time, what we have is the psychological warfare between Josh and Amy of the two exes using their knowledge of each other's psychology to second guess each other's next steps.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And the thing that the kind of topic that cues that off in this episode is needle exchange. So Richie has made this comment about needle exchange, which the language of which is so perfectly written as this kind of like very conservative Republican standpoint on drug using, essentially. And, you know, in 2002, still like the spread of HIV is something that's so much in the public domain. And I actually feel like, you know, as someone who's living her life in 2026, I was like, oh, even the terminology that Richie's campaign is using around HIV positive people and people living with AIDS in 2026 feels a bit on the nose.
Yeah. Because also we have to remember like things like PrEP didn't come on the market until 2012.
Yeah.
So we're still in 2002 so far behind in terms of like preventative care.
And obviously that kind of dialogue around needle use is so opposed by the Bartlet administration. And so everyone's kind of getting very het up about it. And then Jed has some kind of quite comical moments of sort of lifting the mood slightly.
He has reached the kind of mental state that I feel my grandfather did at like 83, where he simply no longer gave a fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very much a kind of all guns blazing approach to an election campaign. And I guess when you've already done one stint and, you know, your wife is furious that you're trying to get a second, you do kind of just have to throw everything in. It does feel like he's like, I'm just going to say what I believe in the way I want to. And people are just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
They've always been iffy about me in Maine. I don't know why.
It's a mystery, sir.
You can't come out against either. You'll alienate
heroin addicts,
liberals.
Whatever.
Very good. Very good. My fear with Jed's not giving a fuck energy, Leigh, is that in doing so, he's going to like be too confident in Richie's kind of lack of experience and like underestimate that Stackhouse might become powerful. And I just get so worried when we feel confident that we're going to win Leigh, because flashbacks of just you and I sat on the carpet in your flat drinking cocktails and being like, well, this is suddenly like a wake rather than a wedding.
When you're too anxious to sit on the sofa and you have to sit on the floor.
Yeah. Awful. Now, CJ and Toby have an exchange, which I think is absolutely fucking fascinating, because it's very like, for me, how Trump won first time around.
CJ has an excellent point. It's like, it's Aaron Sorkin telling the future yet again, because this is how Trump won in 2016.
So Toby says this: these two men are going to be side by side on stage answering questions. That's the ball game.
If the whole thing is he can't tie his shoelaces and it turns out he can, then that is the ball game.
I believe he needs to do more than tie his shoelaces.
Not much more.
That's fascinating.
And that's true. That's how Trump dominated Hillary Clinton in the debate and made her look like she was referred to in the press as like a shrill, small woman.
Yeah. And so my fear is that we're sowing some seeds for the debates, in that Jed's going to be there with his like incredibly verbose arguments, his well-prepped answers, his statistics, his facts. And Richie's just going to say rogue stuff and Jed's going to lose it.
He's going to prod the bear because we know that Jed has a temper and Richie is going to exploit his emotionality. Yeah. And like rage bait him.
I think that's what it's going to be. I think the whole election campaign is going to be rage baiting from Richie because he knows, and that's what he said to Jed last season. Like, basically, you're like an intellectual liberal, and you think I'm an idiot, so I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah, I mean, CJ closes the whole conversation by saying, "Disagree all you want, but I'm right." And I would just once in my life like to say that with my full chest.
Oh, there have been a lot of occasions in my life, Leigh, where I have looked back and gone, if only. I should just be more CJ Craig in day to day.
We all should. That's a note for us all.
It's logged. Donna has an undercover mission in this episode, which is very fun.
It's so fun.
Her first instinct is that she might need to wear a disguise. But she's going to a talk with this like self-help guru. Because Governor Richie has been consulting with this man to like help with his campaign, which I think is so weird, but also so believable.
So believable, so real, like a guru. It's the prelude to the manosphere.
Yeah, but I wonder if in the context of 2002, this was based on something. There's something about it that feels too real, like too stupid to not be real. Agreed. We then have a little scene with the Israeli foreign minister who's come over to the White House, Ben. He and Leo, old friends. They briefly discuss the hostage situation, which was a part of last week's episode, which was the people who had set off the pipe bombs at the university. They have currently been like holed up in a house for 11 days. Wild. Which is wild. And I feel like that sort of thing was happening a lot in like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, like that Tara Westover book, Educated.
Yeah, like
that
lots of kind of like
ended up in a hostage situation, didn't they?
Yeah, like, and then federal agents having to like storm.
Yeah.
So all we know is that there are kids in there. Now, whether or not that means small children or people who are like teenagers, 17, 18, we're not sure. Because we then move on to the fact that there's this growing tension between Kumar and Israel and like what we think is going to happen. And then we have this scene where Leo is trying to encourage Ben to take back some information to Israel and be like, can you guys just like hold back? We're trying to barter and like broker a deal. But they are like honestly 2 feet from just a table where everyone's having lunch. And it's wild.
We're very lax.
It's wild.
We're very
that
lax.
We're doing like undercover foreign policy, like a meter away from like a platter of sandwiches. But more on that later and how that kind of pans out. Because we go to Saturday. and the likes of Stackhouse, Susan and Amy featuring Josh Lyman.
Living for them all being in a room together. This is a dramatically outstanding. And I love that we just jump in on the scene midway through like a folksy tale from Stackhouse. And because we join midway through, we're not even sure what the folksy tale is about.
It's so on brand, isn't it? To be like mid-sentence as the characters enter the room and not know how long that story may have been going on for as well. And also then kind of get no conclusion to it either because they just have to start this meeting.
Again, very Biden. But what I will say is Amy has a side pony, which I would like to discuss.
Yeah.
Because why am I not against the side pony?
Look, side ponytails were a time. I wish not to think back to it personally. I feel like the reason that you don't mind it is because I think her hair is kind of the right length through it. And it feels like she's pulled it back quite casually. And I think it's the casual nature of it that maybe makes it less offensive rather than like the slicked to the side pony. However, she's wearing a pink blazer and that is too much for me.
I quite like it, unsurprisingly.
The thing is that I'm not against seeing Amy in a soft color. You know, I'm not against her being like, I'm going to wear an overtly feminine color to work to be a powerful woman. Very for that. I'm very against the cut of the blazer, which is vile. And also the color of pink, which I feel like isn't necessarily enhancing Amy's skin tone or hair color.
I completely disagree. I think she looks fabulous.
Then this is a hill that I will die on.
Oh my God. We just continue to be divided. Who would have thought that Amy's style was the thing that would divide us about the West Wing?
I'm like, put her in like a really deep fuchsia. She'd look amazing.
Oh, no, I'm not really a fuchsia girl.
Or like even paler. But it's just like it's just bringing out her red tones. And I think that's unfair.
You live in fear of red tones.
I do. As a pale woman who doesn't really tan, who freckles, I think Leigh and I once worked with a chef who described my skin as looking like I tanned through a sieve.
Was that Dave?
Yeah.
Oh, incredible.
Red for filth. Do you know what else I love about this scene? The conversations surrounding pilots.
Another one of those jobs.
Yes, men believe that they could all do. Most men, I think, believe they could land a plane.
Yes, absolutely agreed. They're just waiting for that day to be called upon in a state of emergency.
I'll do it. A guy told me I should take flying lessons because it would relax me. I don't think it would. Do you?
No, Josh, I think you of all people shouldn't fly things.
Thank you, Senator Stackhouse, for coming in with some sense of sensibility, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that common sense.
However, this meeting is basically to try and convince Stackhouse to step out of the race. So it's with Josh, Susan, and Amy, but also some various other, I believe, senators and Congress people. And they're like, oh, you kind of promised us, Stackhouse, that you would endorse the president. Seems like you're not doing it. And Stackhouse is like, well, I really want to use this as an opportunity to raise some issues. How do we feel about that?
I think there's a lot to be said about third-party candidates doing such things, which we will get into in the study session.
Interesting. A little Charlie update, Leigh.
Please.
Charlie's at work. It's a Saturday. New character, Emily, bustling around.
Obsessed. I also love Charlie's energy in speaking to a subordinate at work. It feels very respectful.
Yeah.
It feels very
fun.
Charlie would be a fun boss, I feel.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure you just take what needs to be signed today. They're going to try and give you a whole stack. And right there is where you become a man, Emily.
Should I use sex as a tactic?
If you need to. Hell, even if you just want to.
Obsessed.
It's banter, you know?
But so respectful.
Yeah. But because it's Saturday, Leigh, who is with Charlie.
Saturday means Anthony.
And Anthony is full of hell. Absolutely furious.
Anthony is in the depths of grief rage,
Yeah.
which is a very specific type of rage, which is deeply unpleasant for everyone involved.
Yeah. And you know when someone's like, no, I don't actually want any of you to help me or like provide me with an answer to any of the problems I have. I just intend to be horrendous to be around for however long this period of grieving may last until I move on into some other kind of phase. He's sort of sitting slumped in the corner. And I do think the way that it's written is really smart because it would be really easy to try and make Charlie like coddle him or like almost try and like be family. But actually, I think the thing that makes Charlie a great big brother is that he's genuinely trying to give a similar energy to Simon, which is, I'm going to give you the tools to go independently and you have ownership over whether or not you decide to change.
Yeah.
So like, here's this. What you do with it is up to you. Yeah. You're the master of your own fate. I'm not your father. I'm not your brother. I'm not your family. I'm not actually even your friend.
Yeah.
Do with it what you will. And I think that that's been pitched so well. To Cupcake and the using of, sometimes I like to call you Cupcake. Is that okay? We're with Sam Seaborn and a woman called Jeanette.
I was like, initially, who the hell is Jeanette? And then I was like, I'm immediately obsessed with the Jeanette.
The briefcase, the coiffed hair, the pearls, the grey 3-piece skirt suit. Who is she? I guess she's working for the Democratic Party? Shrug emoji? Not sure. But she arrives. She has immediate chemistry with Sam Seaborn as if they've worked together before. And basically she's like, hey, just so you know, you want to check in on some of your candidates around the place?
Yeah.
Which causes Sam to kind of fully glitch out in real life, including talking to himself. And Jeanette just says, wow, you just did a whole thing by yourself.
Which I love.
Yes. However, the information Jeanette brings is useful and interesting because I think this is a Sam Seaborn storyline for the rest of the season, which is there are several quite rogue Democratic candidates in areas where famously the Democrats have never really done well.
Yeah.
And a la with Amy Adams, there's a lot of the Bartlet team being like, oh, well, we've never had that place, or we've definitely lost that place to Richie. And Jeanette's like, well, okay.
You're never gonna if you don't invest in that area.
And this is my prediction, Leigh. We're going to win this election by flipping a state.
Dare we dream of flipping Texas?
Maybe we will. Because I think it's going to be like, oh, you know, Richie has got so strong in places where we were strong that roguely we're going to end up flipping a red state blue.
Or are we going to hit Richie where it really hurts right in the balls by taking his home state of Florida?
Well, we get further into this as the, I'm really intrigued. I think Aaron's like laying some breadcrumbs here.
And also Aaron Sorkin is just petty enough that he would go like, oh, you think that Bush won Florida? Not in my world.
Yeah. Updates on the siege. So we're with Special Agent Casper.
Love.
Honestly, absolutely taking the Oval Office by storm.
Has come into the sit room with big energy.
I feel quite flustered when Casper says anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
And when he's like running through the plan for how they're going to take the house, I'm like, I would honestly follow you wherever you tell me to go.
Also, as I said before, I will say it again, marriage material. Donna, get on that. Get on it.
If there is no follow-up to the level of flirtation that they had previously, I'll be severely disappointed.
I will be furious. But Bartlet does close the scene by going, let's get the kid, which just made me, I just love America.
It's very disaster film, and therefore I have no notes. However, we do have a lingering moment with Leo at the end of that scene, there was a moment in the scene with Ben where he was like, "Oh, are you advising the president well?" And I think that this is where Leo's going to resign. In my head, I think the decision where he pushed Jed to sign on the Sharif assassination, I think he's like, I made a wrong move there. I didn't advise you well, and I shouldn't be the person to advise you anymore.
Yeah.
That's my instinct, is that we are actually going to see some international conflict over this. However, shall we go back to Josh and Amy?
Please. And if I may, I would just like to situate this by saying my theory of Josh through this whole episode, and I think what may be the arc of his season, is Josh Lyman, according to the West Wing Wiki, is supposed to be 38 in season 1.
Really?
I think Josh Lyman is having an existential crisis about hitting 40.
Hey.
And that's why we have all the chat about professional baseball. He's officially aging out.
Yeah.
That's why we have all the chat about being a pilot.
Wow. You know, as someone who knows quite a few men of this age, I can confirm something does happen. That I'd say between 36 and 40, there's a lot going on.
Which is, I think, the same moment that women hit when they're turning 30.
Yes. Yeah. That like 27 to 30, and you like freak out, lose your goddamn mind, and then you go in.
God, my biological clock.
My biological clock, my monetary like worth in society is all just going to fall off a cliff. And then you get into your 30s and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible.
It's like sliding into a warm bath.
I'm invisible now, and I've never felt better.
You're not invisible. But excuse me.
But you know, like to a degree.
We are still sexual hot beings, Fiona.
That wasn't what I was saying. I'm just saying that like not all things are aimed at women over a certain age. Like you kind
We are not over a certain age. We're 32.
But I feel like Leigh's come in hot on this.
I'm furious.
I mean more like when you're in your 20s, as a young woman, you feel so under the microscope and so like held to such a high standard. And you're like, oh my God, if I don't fit into this size clothing, my life is over. If I don't get that promotion, my life is over. If I don't get that boy, my life is over. And actually being in your 30s, suddenly it's like you step out of your light and then you just get to watch everything a bit more. Like the pressure of society is less, which actually gives you so much more freedom to make choices, to carve out your own personality outside of what I guess society would like you to do. And which is why I'm fascinated when people get divorced or have big breakups around that 30 mark. And because then I'm like, you're actually going to start, you're going to go into
who you actually are.
It's like, you know, this is why we love the Sex and the City girls.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I'm not fucking about trying to impress people. I'm trying to garner my own kind of like cult of personality. Yeah. I know I'm not invisible. I'm a hot bitch. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you know who else is a hot bitch, Leigh?
Amy Gardner.
She really honestly is.
Can we discuss the hello that Josh gives to Amy?
Yeah, weird.
It's so loaded.
It's so loaded. And the thing is, they have this like little back and forth, which is a fight that is definitely not about what they're talking about and is definitely about them.
Yeah.
Why are we encouraging a group of people so howl at the moon, lazy ass stupid that they can't bring themselves to raise their hands? Why is it important that they be brought into the process?
You should stop being mad at me.
Interesting. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry that like I made you lose your job.
That's sweet of you to look out for me, but I liked the job I had. And when I lost it, I didn't pitch anything. I didn't stage a nutty. I fought you. I lost. I had a drink. I took a shower. Because that's how it is in the NBA. You know what I do when I win? 2 drinks.
I love her. And I also love that she was like, I'm going to make a basketball reference because I'm cool.
And because I know you and I know what will get through your thick skull.
Yeah, I think Amy Gardner is an icon.
She is. She's trapped in 2000s feminism, but that's not her fault. That's her life and times.
That's when she was created, you know?
Yeah.
Donna, speaking of women that we love, is studying her notes from her like little day out with the guru. And she does a bit that goes on for too long where she kind of pretends that she's been like very deeply moved.
That she's fully joined the cult.
Including quoting this, which is, "I live my life out loud."
It's incredible.
And then she's like, "No, I this is too much. I need a shower." But she's wearing a lovely sweater.
Maroon is truly Donna's color.
And I think like that cut of sweater and like the idea of like a sweater as like workwear has like disappeared.
Agreed.
And I'd love to bring it back.
Agreed.
Like a lovely sweater and black slacks.
Gorgeous.
Now, Leigh, you typed out Josh's speech in this scene. I would be fascinated for you to read it out and then for us to discuss it.
There are important thinkers, and understanding them can be very useful, and it's not ever going to happen at a 4-hour seminar. When the president's got an embassy surrounded in Haiti, or a keyhole photograph of a heavy water reactor, or any of the 50 life and death matters that walk across his desk every day, I don't know if he's thinking about Immanuel Kant or not. I doubt it. But if he does, I'm comforted at least in my certainty that he is doing his best to reach for all of it and not just the McNuggets. Is it possible that we would be willing to require any less of the person sitting in that chair? The low road? I don't think it is.
Now, I have a couple of questions for you on this one. One, in the context of when this episode aired, who do you think we're talking about?
We're talking about Bush.
Surely, right? Which is, you know, popular president pre, you know, illegal war. And I think that it's like this thing of being like, oh, in a campaign, you can say all the right things. You can have the great quotes. You can have the speeches that we can read back. But actually being the president comes down to, in the moment when you're there at the coalface, what are you going to do that's going to be in the best interest of the people of the country that you're leading?
Yeah.
And I do understand where Josh is coming from, but I fear that even in 2002, we're discussing the fact that that part of the job description is falling by the wayside already.
Yeah. Yeah, we're discussing the fact that, you know, the smartest person is not in the job of president of the United States.
No, and I think that's what we're living in 2026 is we're watching what happens when a popular candidate who said a lot of things in their election campaign that resonated clearly with a lot of people is now in a situation where they're making calls on a global scale.
Or are they making calls, or are they farming those decisions out to Dick Cheney?
Sure, you know, there's it's kind of scary because so much of politics as a kind of member of the general public is about personality.
Yeah.
And we vote on that, you know? There's so many videos available in the UK right now. The Reform Party has become so powerful and has huge sway over really large areas in the UK. And a lot of people who are campaigning against reform are going to these areas where reform is positive and asking people on the street what policies they like. And more often than not, people can't answer. Or they'll say, hey, this is a policy, what do you think of it? And it's usually about the leader of the Reform Party, Nigel Farage's opinions on women and things that he would like to instigate about businesses and people's houses and benefits and welfare. And the general public is like, God, I'd never support that. And that's the thing, it's misinformation under the guise of personality.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that in 2002, this was still just as stressful a topic.
Yeah.
And we've really learned nothing.
Well, because it didn't happen overnight, right? We didn't get to reform and Donald Trump overnight. The seeds were already laid, which was what Aaron Sorkin was seeing in 2002.
We finally hear back that actually the 2 debates has been signed off. We are
Yes.
not getting any more.
Mm-hmm.
It will be 2.
Mm-hmm.
Sam takes it quite well.
Mm-hmm.
He is with Leo. There is someone who's going to take it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And that person is Toby. And Toby tries to kind of smash through a locked door.
Toby is so hot when he's angry.
He's really, really riled up about the debate thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a new development, Leigh, in our kind of Kumar versus Israel tension, which is we find out that the plane that our Israeli Foreign Minister Ben was on has gone missing over Lebanon.
Fuck.
And because of this, there is going to be ramifications.
Yeah.
And therefore, I do think we're on the eve of kind of an outbreak of war in the Middle East.
Yeah.
This is where we get another lingering shot on Leo when he realizes that Ben was on the plane.
Yeah.
And I do think my predictions are coming true.
Yeah.
That he's going to be reaching capacity soon.
Because he's the one that talked Ben into traveling home on the Sabbath sooner than he was planning.
Yeah, to go and take the information back to try and talk down Israel. We jump to Sunday night. We're just with Jed and CJ, just discussing sport and drinking tea, which is nice that they're hanging out.
Yeah, love it.
I think they're waiting for the Red Mass to start.
Yes. I mean, what I really like about the scene is when Jed's speech for the Red Mass is brought in by Sam, and Jed says, "Nice job on the Red Mass, first rate. You don't mind if I change everything, do you?"
That's great.
Which is very fun.
And then Sam's response is, cute. I'll take a look. And I like Sam's use of cute.
Yeah. But I love that we kind of come to a close about Josh and Amy too, with the fact that Amy kind of shares that she's essentially been a Jed supporter longer than he has. And that, maybe Susan did have a point. She was kind of playing 2 teams because her ultimate loyalty was to the president because she supports him and believes in him.
Yes. And she has a speech with Josh that's incredibly meaningful and I think like beautifully performed, but all the while she's making a balloon animal, which really undercuts it all.
Right. With reference to, I suppose, the first time that we met Amy last season.
And her talking about being a fun aunt and making balloon animals. But I do think that that's kind of like Amy's character, right? And that's what makes her different from Mandy. It's like Mandy was a very like bit between the teeth, like die-hard political agent. Whereas I feel like Amy's like, and I am also just a girl.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, why we love Amy.
Absolutely.
The team come to a conclusion about the debates. Obviously, Toby's furious.
Yeah.
But we come up with a concept, right? That Richie doesn't want debates because he knows that's where he's going to show his weaknesses, which is why they've tried to cut us down to 2. But what we can do is maybe change the format of the debates to better suit Bartlet as a speaker. So there's this like madcap plan to just do 1 debate.
Which we should have seen coming, because that just means there's going to be 1 debate episode. Yeah.
Yeah. And that 1 debate is going to have like a new format to how debates have previously run, trying to give us the biggest leg up. And
Smart.
We're going to go on a 24-hour retreat to work on it.
Obsessed.
Which obviously to me cues road trip episode.
I'm very excited. Stackhouse is like, I'm going to grandfathers it all up.
Yeah.
And just step aside and endorse.
And we leave Jed going to church. And I feel good about that. I'm ready to do battle.
Take me to church.
So I do feel like we're on the precipice of quite a lot of action at the end of this episode, Leigh.
To quote Lady Gaga, I think we're on the edge of glory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gagging for the debate episode.
Agreed. Best fashion for you?
I would say that there is some lovely shades of maroon going on in this episode. I would love to shout out Donna's sweater. And also Jed wears a lovely red casual sweater to go to the Red Mass.
Gorgeous, yeah. I mean, I would have to give it to CJ. We didn't discuss it, but CJ to the Red Mass is wearing like a like sand-colored, double-breasted blazer and matching wide-leg trouser suit.
It's
And
impeccable. Like that's,
Mm-hmm.
I think, the trouser suit of dreams. The cut is bang on.
The tailoring, it feels luxurious.
It does. Like a heavy material.
Yeah.
Amy's pink blazer's going to jail, and I don't care what you have to say about it. What could a British or Irish politician never get away with?
Offering one of his daughters for marriage, because when Michael Casper successfully frees the hostages,
Yes.
Bartlet's response is, Mike, pick yourself a daughter. My oldest is married, but I can have it an old. The Pope said he'd do it. I swear to God.
Which is so Jed. And very like, I'm a man doing a bit. It's his inner Catherine Hepburn.
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think mine would be sending an assistant undercover.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that wouldn't backfire massively in
Agreed.
the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Queerest moment that never meant to be queer?
When in doubt, Sam Seaborn.
Truly.
Mm-hmm.
Truly. Best writerly moment?
Ooh, I'm going to have to agree with what you've put down, which is there's actually one person who's going to take it worse. Who? Cue Toby striding through a locked door.
Just like smashing into it repeatedly. Very good. And man, I feel like a man.
Mike's response to Bartlet offering him a daughter, which is, that's very friendly of you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so good. I have to make an honourable mention to Josh in reference to Donna when she comes back from the guru going, you got a mouthful of wise ass today, which no one ever says in real life. And so I did really enjoy that. And then I do think perhaps we need to reference, there comes a day in every man's life, and it's a hard day, but there comes a day when he realizes he's never going to play professional baseball.
Impeccable. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Leigh, what was the moment that made you proudest to be an American?
When Charlie realizes that he has in fact gotten through to Anthony a little bit, because Anthony sends him hate mail, but he does send it on the back of the First Amendment. So we know that he is actually reading the Constitution, which Charlie gifted to him.
Yes, I enjoyed that. I think for me it was when Stackhouse conceded because of the advice from a woman.
Love that.
Yeah. And Leigh, you teased earlier, but what are we going to learn about today?
Today, we are going to learn about who in the name of God is Jill Stein and what is she doing? So, third-party candidates. We know them. Some of us love them. They typically only get a really small segment of presidential votes, but they often win more votes than the margin of victory between Democrat and Republican.
Right.
Particularly in swing states. Therefore, they are criticized as being spoilers in a campaign, because although they will never win, they can, depending on whose vote share they're taking from, they can swing a election in favor of the opposite party.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I feel like it happens in a different way in the UK, but we feel this deeply.
So the problem could, in theory, be addressed with ranked choice voting, which is already used in Alaska and Maine, where you can essentially put like a long shot candidate as your number one choice if you want. And then when that candidate is eliminated because they've not gotten a certain percentage of the vote, your vote for your second choice then counts.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which means that a president would be more likely to be elected with majority support. The best known third parties in the US currently are the Libertarian Party, which, let me tell you, if anyone, no offense meant to any listeners who identify this way, but just know, if anyone ever tells you that they are a libertarian, they are a crazy bitch. Crazy.
I think Donna's a libertarian.
Rogue energy for sure. The major ones today are the Libertarian Party and the Green Party. But historically, there have been a handful of others, including the Constitution Party, the Prohibition Party, the States' Rights Party, the Populist Party, and of course, the Socialist Party. They've all held conventions to select a presidential nominee in history. The Green Party is obviously pro-environment and anti-war. Jill Stein has been their de facto leader for some time. She is a physician and an environmental activist, and she has been the Green Party nominee for president in 2012, 2016, and 2024. She entered politics in 2002 when what was known at the time as the Massachusetts Green Rainbow Party asked her to run for governor of Massachusetts. She later represented the Green Rainbow Party in a 2004 race for state representative and a race for Secretary of State in 2006 and a Massachusetts governor campaign again in 2010. She has never won any of those elections.
Right.
She's from Chicago, but obviously lives in Massachusetts. She first encountered activism as a student at Harvard in 1969 during a takeover of University Hall to protest Harvard's relationship with the military, which we're seeing a lot at the moment of that kind of student demonstration against the current genocide in Gaza. She graduated from Harvard Medical School in 1979. And before she entered politics, she practiced internal medicine and was a professor of medicine at Harvard. And she was prompted into environmental activism due to seeing the number of patients coming in with pollution-related diseases.
Yeah, I mean...
In 2016, Trump won in several states by fewer votes than Jill Stein got.
Okay. So that's where it stings, isn't it?
So both Democrats and Republicans have tried to limit the scope of third-party candidates for this reason, because they're afraid that they'll take away decisive votes where there are very thin margins for victory. On the other side, third-party candidates like Jill Stein and RFK Jr. have fought for more access to electoral politics. As an independent, RFK Jr. was polling in the double digits before he dropped out and endorsed Trump. But had he stayed in the race, you might have seen a similar issue. But actually, both Democrats and Republicans were afraid of RFK Jr. taking votes away purely on the basis of the Kennedy name. In 2024, this most recent presidential election was the first time the Democratic National Committee has ever released an attack ad focusing on a third-party candidate, which they did about Jill Stein. And the ad shows Jill Stein's face slowly morphing into Trump's face. And the narration is, why are Trump's close allies helping her? Stein was key to Trump's 2016 wins in battleground states. She's not sorry she helped Trump win. That's why a vote for Stein is really a vote for Trump.
Oh, that's so interesting, isn't it? That like you'd focus your energy on that kind of... I feel like I'm seeing like quite a lot of that happen in the UK now.
Yes. So they did this because in a September 2024 report showed that Stein was ahead of Kamala Harris and Trump among Muslim voters in swing states like Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin that Biden won in 2020. At a rally in Detroit around this time, Jill Stein is quoted as saying, the Democrats have lost the Muslim American and the Arab American vote. They're going to be losing enough swing states that they will not win and they cannot win. This was in response to the fact that Harris had pledged her, quote, unequivocal and unwavering support for Israel's, quote, right to defend itself, but also noted that, quote, too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. When Jill Stein was asked about potentially taking votes from Kamala Harris and Donald Trump after a rally in Michigan, Jill Stein said, "This is a very dire situation that will be continued under both Democrats and Republicans. So we say there is no lesser evil in this race." Adrienne Watson, who's a senior advisor to the Democratic National Committee, was quoted as saying in response, she put Donald Trump in the White House in 2016 and she's ready to do it again. A vote for Stein is a vote for Trump. Around this time as well, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was doing a Instagram live and got asked the question, how do I tell my friends who are Jill Stein voters that they're wasting their time and effort? To which AOC replied, "Y'all, this is a little spicy, but I have thoughts. Trust me, I've been on record about my criticisms of the two-party systems, so this is not about that." AOC has been a candidate in New York representing both Democratic Party and the Working Families Party. And she has endorsed candidates from the Working Families Party and the Democratic Socialists of America. So she has the stats to back that up. She goes on to say, "What I have a problem with is the fact that you're running for president. You are the de facto leader of your party. And if you run for years and years and years in a row and your party has not grown and you don't add city council seats and you don't add down ballot candidates and you don't add state electeds, that's bad leadership. That to me is what is upsetting. If all you do is show up once every 4 years to speak to people who are justifiably pissed off, but you're just showing up once every 4 years to do that, you're not serious. To me, it does not read as authentic. It reads as predatory."
I mean, she's got a point.
Yeah.
I mean, I 100% see where she's coming from. I feel like as a political operator, I think she's voiced that with real clarity.
Agreed. Jill Stein responded by labeling AOC Pelosi, referring to AOC's kind of evolution from Washington outsider to kind of like mainstream party messenger. She captioned the video that she made in response with, "Hey y'all, this is a little spicy, but I had thoughts about AOC calling me and the Green Party not authentic and predatory." She says in her video, "Clearly AOC is the attack dog du jour and the Democrats are running scared, and they should be, because who wants to support a genocide? Who wants to vote for a genocide? If there's anything that's predatory here, it's saying that your candidate is, quote, working tirelessly for a ceasefire when they are actually funding and arming genocide and actually refusing to even consider an arms embargo, which would bring the genocide to a screeching halt." The New York Times said about Jill Stein, "For the last 8 years, Ms. Stein has taken her place as a peace-peddling, Democrat-bashing, Republican-aided, formerly Russian-boosted villain of the left." Jill Stein compared Democratic voters to a spouse trapped in a toxic relationship, quote, constantly making excuses for your abusive partner.
Wow.
She's a spicy woman, okay?
Yeah,
I don't think it's wrong to say. Yeah. Peter Rothpletz, writing for the New Republic in September 2024, wrote quite the scathing piece about Jill Stein, which was titled, "Jill Stein is Killing the Green Party," with the byline, "With membership at new lows and no electoral wins to their name, it's time for the Greens to ditch the malignant narcissist who's presided over its decline."
Oh, there's a lot to unpack, isn't there?
There's so much going on. He writes, "Over the last several years, much ink has been spilled over the fact that one of America's political parties has been captured, if not contorted, into an outright cult of personality by an aging, megalomaniacal autocrat apologist and repeat loser who cares about little outside accruing power and personal enrichment. You are probably conjuring up the image of Donald Trump. You're not wrong, but this dynamic actually applies to two of America's political parties, the GOP under Trump and the Green Party under Jill Stein."
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, to your like knowledge as someone who's well informed about kind of day-to-day American politics, is there a member of that party or like another spokesperson for it besides Jill Stein that you're like, oh yeah, such and such? Or
Not currently.
No, it's like her or bust, really. That's very interesting. Because I feel like that's where a party is going to fall down, isn't it? When you're like, you've just got to have those other names and other spokespeople.
As of July 2024, there were only 143 office holders who were affiliated with the Green Party. None of them were in statewide or national office. And Jill Stein's period of leadership over the Green Party has shown a big decline in the Green Party, which is the opposite of what we're seeing in the UK at the moment. In 2024, there were about 244,000 registered members nationally of the Green Party. That was down from its peak in 2004 of 319,000. And a Green Party candidate has never won federal office. But they've had presidential candidates every election since 1996. They've never earned more than 2.7% of the vote, which was Ralph Nader in 2000. And many blame Ralph Nader from stealing victory from Al Gore and giving it to George W. Bush.
Right.
AOC responded to a clip of Jill Stein being interviewed on a show called The Breakfast Club with the caption, "Nobody needs talking points to know Jill Stein hasn't won so much as a bingo game in the last decade. And if you actually give a damn about people, you organize, build power and infrastructure, and win."
Saying that she hasn't won anything, not even a bingo game, is absolutely... that's floored me. It's so funny. It's very it's very intellectual cattiness.
It's straight out of the West Wing.
It
It could be lifted from an Aaron Sorkin script. The last time she actually won elected office was over a decade ago. But she has some interesting ties to Russia historically.
I'd like to hear more about this. Rogue as fuck.
At a campaign event in Tampa, she championed the cause of 3 members of the African People's Socialist Party who were indicted in April 2004 for participating in, quote, a malign influence campaign on behalf of the Russian government. A Democratic National Committee spokesperson, Matt Corradini, said in response to her voicing that support in a statement, "Jill Stein is a useful idiot for Russia. After parroting Kremlin talking points and being propped up by bad actors in 2016, she's at it again. Jill Stein won't become president, but her spoiler candidacy that both the GOP and Putin have previously shown interest in can help decide who wins. A vote for Stein is a vote for Trump."
God, this is fascinating. What an interesting human being.
I find her absolutely fascinating. I don't know that I like her.
No.
Not that that's like the most important thing. I think I don't know that I like her. I think it's so complicated because so much of what she stands for is absolutely what I stand for. And yet so much of the way that she goes about it, I find abhorrent.
It's tough, isn't it? Like I would be so fascinated to see what that party could do under different leadership.
Yeah.
Because it's clear that there are a lot of things that party speaks on behalf of that resonate with a lot of Americans. It's just, it does seem like it's bonkers to me that she's had the reins for so long with so little improvement to the party.
Yeah.
What an interesting individual.
I think she's mad.
Sounds like it.
At 8:30 p.m. on election night 2024, Jill Stein announced to her assembled supporters, "It feels like we have won." She said this at what the Washington Post called an intimate and thoroughly strange election night party in a state where, after much ado about spoilers, Stein's share of the vote appeared to be inconsequential as of Wednesday morning. But Jill Stein said, quote, "The numbers actually don't matter."
That's okay. Sure. Okay.
It feels to me like we have launched an amazing, essential, transformational process.
I think, she's gone. She's gone to us.
She's drunk the Kool-Aid. She sounds like the guru that Donna went to see in this episode. The Washington Post wrote about her election night party, saying she had begun her campaign late last year in a long shot bid to break up the two-party system and try and end the war in Gaza. And she has accomplished neither. Nor did she appear bound to have a strong enough showing to make any establishment head spin or even turn slightly in her direction.
Yikes.
One of her adult sons is quoted in an interview as saying, for her political activities, she does not have the support of the family.
Wow. What an insight into the home.
He asked not to be identified by name to avoid personal or professional repercussions from being associated with his mother.
My God.
He said, when she told us she was going to run again back in October 2023, we asked her not to.
Wow. Do you know what I'd like to see?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see a biopic of this woman, and I would like her to be played by Jamie Lee Curtis.
Whoa. That is such a good casting.
Yeah?
It's just the right brand of mental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll start workshopping it.
Yeah. Needless to say, Jill loves media attention. In 2016, she actually crashed the Democratic National Convention with a Fox News crew.
That's so crazy.
She also, during her 2016 campaign, described Clinton as a far greater threat to the American system than Donald Trump. She said, Donald Trump, I think, will have a lot more trouble moving things through Congress. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, won't. Hillary has the potential to do a whole lot more damage, get us into more wars faster, to pass her fracking disastrous climate program much more easily than Donald Trump could do his.
Wow.
She also called Bernie Sanders a DC insider, quote, corrupted by corporate money.
Which I imagine he had someone do like a needlepoint of that quote, which hangs in his house.
Which is interesting because she herself has received tens of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions from Google, Lockheed Martin, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, and McKinsey.
Which in itself also is very interesting.
She loves to rail against big banks. And she called, she made a statement in 2015 about Exxon, calling for Exxon to get the death penalty for its climate change fraud. But according to her financial disclosures, she has invested somewhere between $995,000 and $11 to $2.2 million in funds such as Vanguard 500 that maintain stakes in Exxon and other energy companies like Chevron, Duke Energy, and Toho Gas.
Oh my God. Just like, you just despair sometimes, don't you? Like,
yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. The Democratic National Committee investigated links between Stein's 2016 campaign and Russia's efforts to interfere in the election. Robert Mueller's report found that the Kremlin's Internet Research Agency used social media to promote Jill Stein's candidacy. In 2015, she attended a gala in support of the Russian propaganda television network RT, where she sat at the head of the table alongside Putin and Michael Flynn.
God, I can't believe I've never heard of this woman.
She's
been everywhere.
Repeatedly repeated Kremlin talking points and posted a campaign video from Moscow's Red Square with language, quote, ripped from Putin's talking points.
To be honest, I feel like since the Cold War, we haven't, like, it's kind of fun to see someone so blatantly bought by the Russians, just like out and about since, the Cold War ended.
Yeah. Now, this is where I truly am like, oh, I would not enjoy being in a room with this woman. In a 2016 Politico interview, she claimed that because of the chemicals used to cover up dirt on hotel carpets and how toxic it is, she spreads sheets on the floor of every big chain hotel room that she stays in.
Right. Okay. I think she feels like the sort of individual that you find deep in the Facebook comments section of like a random like community group on Facebook.
Yeah, for sure. She's obviously a marathon runner. She's like super, super duper healthy. She's always quoted as like drinking berry blast smoothies instead of coffee while she's speaking to journalists. And during the 2016 campaign, she told Politico, "I am healthy, yes. I assume I have the lowest blood pressure of any candidate." Hillary Clinton had, in fact, actually provided her own health stats. And apparently, Hillary Clinton's blood pressure was 100/70. The Politico journalist then asked Jill Stein what her blood pressure was, and it was 110/70. Jill Stein was furious, finding out that actually her blood pressure was higher than Hillary Clinton's. And she said, "Are you serious?" And then she said, "Man, well, I would be happy to run a race with her anytime."
Yeah, which kind
I
of again...
don't need you to run a race with Hillary Clinton. I don't.
Please run a political race with her. That's all we ask. I do think, though, when you look at a photo of her, and she's 75, and then you look at a picture of the current president, who is 79, you think, God, she looks better for her age.
Yeah.
But she seems to... that asking to like outrun Hillary Clinton physically is bonkers.
It's my man, I feel like a man moment of the study session, quite frankly.
I'll race you.
It's yeah. I think Peter Rothblatt's writing for the New Republic sums it up pretty well when he says, "Perhaps one day the Green Party will blossom and become a real player in American politics instead of the host body for a malignant egomaniac to cling to in perpetuity. Our politics could use some alternatives. With young people's growing concerns around climate change, it would be beneficial if the Greens could send a candidate to be one of the House's 435, not, as Stein would have you believe, 600 members in the next decade. For that to happen, though, the party will need to summon the courage and good sense to dump Jill Stein once and for all."
Yeah, well said.
I couldn't agree more. He's referencing the fact that she was asked how many members are there in the House of Representatives, and she said 600, which is incorrect. But yeah, that is who Jill Stein is. That's the current de facto leader of America's Green Party.
I will be going to the internet to find clips. I will be falling down a rabbit hole, I believe, with this topic. Thank you, Leigh.
Time magazine had a really helpful kind of full debrief of the, quote, the AOC Jill Stein drama. They really got into it this most recent election cycle.
Would love a blow-by-blow of that. Wow. That really wasn't where I thought that was going to go when you started talking about her. I was like, oh my God, this will be a great way to learn about other parties. Bonkers. Truly. Wow. Okay. Let's go.
Shall we do this again next week, Fi?
I'd love that. Yeah, I'm excited to work on the debate. I think it's time to like get down to it. Do you know what I mean? I think it's time to put our boxing gloves on and take it to the ring.
Duke it out.
Yeah. Leigh, if people wish to get in contact with us, how may they do that?
We are Queer Gals Watch, wherever you get your socials. We are queergalswatch@gmail.com. We have a Patreon that's also under Queer Gals Watch. If you want to check that out and support us online, we're literally able to do season 4 because people support us on Patreon. And also just a little shout out to Erin, who's a big supporter of the podcast, who actually sent me and Fi like a little present. I don't know. I've not opened it up yet, but apparently it's for season 4, episode 18, The Privateers. So we're not quite there yet, but me and Fi are going to open it as we record our episode on episode 18. So I'm very curious as to what is going on in episode 18 that Erin did for us.
Yeah. This is the problem is that I want to rush ahead so badly. But we must try and take in all of the breadcrumbs, Leigh, because I think Aaron is sprinkling stuff left, right, and center in this season. It's his last one. I think he's setting up a lot of stuff. I think he's playing around with a lot of characters. And I, for one, am hooked.
I'm absolutely hooked. I'm thriving watching this series. And huge thank you to Erin for sending us presents.
Thank you, Erin. We're very much looking forward to opening them. And we're both being very good by not doing that already.
I know. It's literally, I'm looking at them. They're in my office right now. And I'm being very brave and very good. And yeah.
So, Leigh, I'll see you next week for us to discuss the next episode. But until then, be good and don't get into any online fights with any politicians.
Bye-bye.
See ya.